you don't know, I've been trying to, we were talking before the show, I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to start this thing. And I kept realizing every time I thought there was an origin story to me and Vincent, it was deeper than I thought.
Yeah.
So we went all the way back to VAM Studios. We'll start
Yeah.
there, I guess.
Yeah, for
VAM
sure.
Studios started off as a blog, a website in the city. It was doing things a
Yeah.
little differently. Tell me about like how you
Yeah.
kind of, you've had a vision for this thing the whole time, and it's kind of been cool to see it
Absolutely.
manifest itself in many ways.
Yeah.
We'll get to the big story in a second, but
Yeah.
what was that like? You kind of always been taking a vision rather than, I think a lot of people like, you know, were like story based, or they're trying to like blog a lot or like
Absolutely,
fill
yeah,
everything, but yours is
yeah.
always kind of on a different square a little bit.
Yeah, I think, I think since the start of VAM, we've always have attempted to carve our own lane
Mm.
and do it differently. We started as an online video magazine almost, where
It was super interesting,
We're-
like, and especially in that
yeah.
realm, because what was that, 2014, 15,
no,
16?
no, no,
I keep saying that, yeah.
2016. It's
just-
crazy
it
because
still seems
everything
so
has
long
happened
ago, yeah.
so fast
Yeah.
that it feels like it's been, almost half a decade. But it's really only been like 2 years, 2.5 years since we started, VAM Studio
Uh-huh.
as a production company. But it started as a video magazine where we were, creating video content for our friends, different artists in the city. And then we wanted to pair that with words from our favorite writers in Chicago. And you were one of those writers, so that's kind of
You don't have to flatter me like that, but yeah.
yeah, that's where one of the origin stories started. And then from there, we just started to get hit up by people willing to pay us to produce video content for them. We had a unique style that we kind of, bit into, and
Mhm.
people fucked with that, and it was really, really beautiful. So it became this bigger thing than just this video online magazine, and then turned and morphed into a video production, a full team video production with DPs, editors, directors. We have fucking sound people now all over the country.
That's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
and like you said, it is crazy to think back, because every time I do think about like our time knowing each other, I honestly I keep going back to 2013, 2014, because it seems that long, and because all the stuff you've done since. So
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know, I mean, we could go through the list, like the Alderman video that just came out. You guys
Yeah.
help with a bunch of independent like film projects in the city.
For
You guys have been
sure.
producing music videos for like Jamila Woods, Chance the
Yeah,
Rapper. I mean, that all happened so quick. We were talking again before the show, and it's funny. I remember talking to you at probably about that time, like 2016, somewhere at Soho House or something like that.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
That's super petty. But no, like I remember sitting there talking to you there, and you were like, "Yeah, about to do this, and this." And it's, you hear people say stuff like that all the time, but it's really fun when you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the trajectory, and you've really
Yeah.
taken that and run with it.
Absolutely. I think what we're doing in Chicago is so unique because we're showing that we can touch so many different demographics because our team comes from so many different perspectives.
Mhm.
For instance, like we've shot content for Jamila Woods, and then drag queens like Shea Coulee, but also doing video content for corporations like Red Bull, and then flipping that and working with corporations like Grindr, and our scope is so wide, and it's because I think that's kind of a reflection of who we are. I think we're so much more nuanced than people give us credit for. So
And I mean, and that is interesting you say that, because the reason we actually found time to sit down today was on the heels of, well, sort of on the heels of the trailer, but
Yeah,
everything you
it's
just was
weird.
talking about with VAM Studios seems
Yeah.
like it has really laddered itself up into this independent project that you just did called Damaged Goods.
Yeah,
If you haven't seen the trailer
It's
yet,
out, it's
check it
here.
out. Abana's in there. She's been on
Please check
some
it
of our
out.
shows before.
Havana, my queen.
Absolute amazing person. Like the more I've gotten to know her through Mars, and it's like it was so perfect to see her. In it.
Yeah.
So tell me about it,
Crazy
man. Because
yeah.
go ahead.
No, it's a crazy story about Havana. We auditioned and she fucking killed it. But she was moving to Ghana in 2 days. A plane
perpetually,
ticket,
right?
Yeah, like seriously. So after a couple days after the audition, she moved to Ghana. So, we couldn't cast anyone but her. So
Right.
we flew her back in from Ghana, and she fucking
Wow.
killed it. Along with the entire cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like what I was saying, this whole series, like
I mean, you were gonna call it a movement, and I'm here for it.
I was gonna say, like this whole thing you're doing kind of manifests itself in this project. I feel like when you
Absolutely.
brought me over and showed me a trailer last week or 2 weeks ago, or whatever. I was blown away by it because
Man.
I think the city's moving towards this more visual style of storytelling.
Absolutely.
I think we've kind of gotten to that point where we want to own our own stories, and
Yeah.
this, you're really doing that. And
Yeah.
I'm real about, like, I love appropriateness. I love things that fit together really well.
Yeah,
And what
yeah.
you like what you're doing with Damaged Goods seems like it's such a perfect outgrowth of the world you inhabit. Tell me, like, a little about that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I think Damaged Goods really is a reflection of the community that I fuck with in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
which is that really beautiful, colorful, gritty Chicago creative community. Um, Unfortunately, we're still not seeing, POC and queer POC people on TV as much as we need to. So that representation it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of waiting for it, we just thought, like, why don't we just start it and create that solution instead of waiting for someone to create it for us. I think the beautiful thing about Damaged Goods is it's centered around four creatives of color kind of hustling and grinding and navigating Chicago, trying to pay their rent. And, there's so many different obstacles that they face, but instead of them focusing on like the tragedies and the trauma, it's more so about how they lean on one another as like a chosen family and a community, which is something that we understand.
Yeah.
The Chicago creative community lends itself to that always.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, it's interesting. It does seem like a movie like this, not like this, but of, like, people in different cultures and different eras throughout history have made something like this that wanted to represent themselves.
Yeah.
But I feel as though, where you came up here in Chicago, we're kind of the last. I feel like we're one of the last, like, real, like, creative big cities where you can struggle and you can have those experiences, and like you said, we've been through that stuff too. But do you feel like that influenced it a lot? Like, you can't really be like, when you make movies like Girls and, like, in New York, it's like, being a creative in New York, all right, you got bread. Like, you could be broke in Chicago. Like, you could really struggle here. So I feel like that influences the art that's like being made right now.
That's so real. I'm basically broke now, after this series. But I think the beautiful thing about Chicago and the community here is it's this really great blue class, blue worker mentality. You know what I mean? Where it's like, we grind hard, we hustle hard. It's because we want to get shit done and we want to see results. No one's giving us that hand since we're in the Midwest. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's this sensibility that, like, you grind and you doing what you love as a creative. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the overall scope of Damaged Goods too. It's like they're grinding and hustling, but they're also navigating life in the ways that they want to navigate it.
Sure, yeah.
They're being true to themselves, which I think reflects a lot of the creatives in Chicago.
100%. I mean, I think that's what's beautiful about what we've done here is, I still haven't had a chance to dig all the way through it. March, you have a chance to get all the way into it.
Yeah, we're releasing it at March after
I don't know if I was supposed to say it. My fault.
No, it's cool. No, that's totally fine.
Later this year, you can check that out.
March.
But from what I've seen, I mean, it is really fun to see. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for, like, Easy's a great show. There's a lot of good. There's some, The Shy was amazing.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been something that's really touched on what you're talking about, like this creative scene in Chicago, the world that a lot of the people who make the stuff that ends up coming out don't get to represent their own lives. You see the rappers, you see the singers or the actors, like, but the people who are like behind the scenes, that's an interesting world that hasn't really been shown yet.
Yeah, especially like the nightlife scene in Chicago.
Right.
It's so vibrant, and I think it's one of the best in the country. And there's so many amazing personalities at the forefront of the Chicago nightlife scene, and we wanted to kind of show what that looks like for creatives stepping into that space, that nightlife space, and how they explore, and how the club or the bar for a lot of people can be kind of like a church.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, a church of some sort, right?
Yeah.
No, it's real, because it's like, I
believe that, especially like in the house scene in Chicago as well. So
I mean, it is. It's like, I don't know. It is interesting, and it's cool that, like, now we're actually owning that story a bit, and there's been so much co-oping of Chicago style, Chicago aesthetics, things that happen here and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you see this evolving into something, like, as a community here in Chicago, film community? Because we have we have these huge sound stages here that aren't being used as much as they could be. CineSpace has a lot of talent over there, but where do you see all this evolving to? What's the next step?
Yeah, I think the next step for me is just to, make something that's accessible for the people who need this content. So my first and foremost goal is to release it all at once in March, make it accessible, and feed the people. After that, whatever comes is cool.
Yeah.
But I have big hopes and I have huge dreams, and I'm kind of I'm really stubborn about making them happen, and I can totally see this living on a bigger platform, whatever that might be. But I think Damaged Goods is a story that doesn't just resonate in Chicago. It's a story that can resonate with creatives and creatives of color and queer people of color all over the world. So however we get there is up to the universe, you know what I mean? But I think the community has my back, so that's all I can ask for.
Absolutely. And man, I'm like, seriously, I'm super excited for you on this whole thing, because
Thanks,
like
man, I
it's
appreciate it.
yeah, no, it's fun seeing people get to the points you expect them to get to, you know what I mean? And like I think like it's right on track from the day I met you. And
Absolutely.
how does it feel for you? Like, I know anytime you do something that's a little different from what people expected,
For sure.
like that first time you do it, it kind of feels like, you drop a hand on the table.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this hand being dropped on the table? I feel like it's a pretty good entrance.
I think it's a pretty good intro.
Yeah.
I feel like, this in a lot of ways is like my coming of age to the industry.
That's very, yeah,
I
definitely.
think, a lot of people don't realize that, yes, the industry can give to you, but you have to give something special to it first, right? So me kind of showing my creative community with writers, Kevin Woodson and Zach Payne and DP Hannah Welliver, and executive producers Sam Bailey and Fatima Asghar from Brown Girls, and my other EP Todd. This is kind of our way of showing, we're taking digital series to the next level. It's bigger than what it is now.
Well, it's almost more granular now, right? Like everyone can tell their story. There's so many platforms to do so,
that's
right?
the beauty of the genre, I think, but I think there's a way to tell your story, but do it in a quality way.
Of course,
And
yeah.
when we tackled this with the team at VAM, like, shout out to my fucking teams, literally like a team of superheroes, some of the most talented people in the world, I think. But when we were crafting this, we were crafting it at like with a network TV mindset. You know what I mean? We really wanted to show that this can live anywhere. And
was that reflected in the final product, or did you kind of stray away from it?
I think so. I mean, like, I think that quality wise, it looks
great. So it's just quality wise, not like the way you did things. I understand what you're saying. You wanted to be able to live. I understand
the way
what you're saying.
too. I think like during the writing process, us like tackling this as like with a legit writer's room with me, Kevin, and Zach, was an idea that we got from Sam and Fati. So I think those little tips that we got from Sam and Fati and those were crucial to how we navigated production of Damaged Goods.
Definitely. So for people who aren't aware of it or like haven't seen the trailer, what can people expect from the series?
It's a beautifully authentic scope of the Chicago community that we're not seeing on a grand level. And I'm a very colorful guy, so it's a highly stylized series with a shit ton of color, a really strong color palette, very, very, very exciting wardrobe and art direction all throughout, reflecting and kind of highlighting queer people and people of color throughout, whether that be in the art direction, whether that be in the music. Shout out to our music consultant, Ariel Zatina. It's such a Chicago thing, and I'm so excited for people to see us as vibrant people.
Do you feel like this is what people expect from Chicagoans? Do you feel like this is going to give them like a left hook a little bit? I feel like you're pulling a scene that has existed, like if you're on the ground floor, you've known about for years, but that people from New York don't expect when they hear Chicago.
Yeah, they might be surprised. I think people in Chicago will totally get it.
Right, of course, yeah.
But yeah, it might be a shock. And I think one thing that we wanted to do tackling Damaged Goods was we didn't want barriers. We wanted sex scenes. We wanted to show drugs, and we wanted to show that as like a transactional thing in the club. And we wanted to show how difficult it can be to be a person of color in a white-dominated creative space. We're tackling these very big things, but in a very real way. I think those are things that people can connect to outside of Chicago. But I'm excited to show the you know, city that I grew up with. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I would just only ask the question because it's like, you know, the coasts always look at the Midwest as this like real wholesome, and it's like, no, man, shit's going down.
Yeah.
There's some shit
for
happening
sure.
here in the middle of the
There's
country.
definitely some shit happening.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some crazy shit happening, and I think that's the beauty of Chicago is, you know, we don't really look at the East or the West Coast for like massive inspiration.
As much as they think we do.
As
right,
much as we,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. We look at ourselves and people within our community, and we borrow and we collaborate, and I think that's what makes Chicago so unique.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that point. Yeah.
Sure.
Well, shoot, I know you got a busy night. You got stuff going on, so you got to get moving. But before we get you out of here, what's next for you? I mean, you're starting off the year right. You got new projects like on the first of the year, right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat. Right?
I expect that this is going to be a big part of this year. But what else? I know you got a ton of other stuff happens. Anything you can kind of shine some light on?
Yeah. I mean, this is a really cool project for myself. But VAM, we're producing a lot of really beautiful content this year. We have a short, I Miss Jamie by Ashley Thompson, director and DP on VAM. We have Sam Bailey, who's also doing some really cool stuff out in LA.
That's awesome, man. That's you know, Sam's somebody like you started this whole thing with, and you've been touting her praises, like singing her praises like
she's
crazy.
I mean, not just my best friend, but also like
super talented individual. It's been great to see you guys work together.
It's really crazy how much I love that person.
No, it's amazing.
My soulmate. Yeah. And then no, that's totally cool. Yeah, and also like we're continuing relationships with some of our favorite collaborators like Jamila Woods and Shea Coulee, and in addition to doing some really cool stuff branding wise.
Did you guys film the Jamila Woods event that you did with Red Bull?
We didn't film it, no.
Did anybody film that? Because I was going to say that would be a great thing. Someone's got to see that. Okay,
yeah,
good.
We were just on visuals.
Yeah,
so
because that way, if you didn't make it to that show, if you can find that
Yes.
video, it was absolutely stunning.
Shout out to Candace and Jordan who worked on the visuals with Jam. Yeah.
You guys are going crazy, man.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you so much for coming through.
Absolutely.
Check out for Damaged Goods. The trailer is out now. You can find it at the VAM Studio Twitter. We'll have it up on Mild Sauce as well.
Yeah.
Coming
also
out.
Follow Damaged Goods TV on Twitter as well.
On Twitter, on Instagram too. They got Instagram, so you can stay up to date with all the happenings of the movie or the series as it comes out. But yeah, this has been Mild Sauce Live with Vincent Martell. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you. All right, we'll be back again. I don't know, maybe next week, maybe in a few days. We'll see when someone stops by. Mild Sauce Live is Jake Krez, Vincent Martell.